We got some news involving the Washington football team, Mario. They have been fined $10 million after their investigation into the workplace culture. And I have actually followed up on this a lot, Mario, for the last few months, and I've read articles about how people coming out saying how terrible the workforce is there, and they actually concluded that investigation in the NFL, and they actually found that they were right. But the money, which is very interesting, Mario, the money will quote be used to support organizations committed to character education, anti-bullying, healthy relationships, and related topics such as like diversity and inclusion, LG, LGBTQ plus issues, microaggression, and unconscious bias, so things like that. Um, and there's been a lot going on with the Washington football team these past couple of weeks, Mario. In addition to all this, Tanya Snyder, who was named the team's co-CEO this week, she is going to take over the day-to-day duties and represent the franchise at league functions for the next several months. And she also will be helping the team try and find a new name to rebrand the franchise. And as for Dan Snyder, he's focusing on a new stadium plan and other matters, which is something that he's been trying to focus on for the team for many, many years because their stadium isn't even in DC. It's in Maryland in a whole other state. So it's a pretty poor location and it's a pretty poor stadium as well. But anyway, I have a quote from Dan Snyder. There's a lot of quotes, but this is one of the first ones that says, and I quote, I have learned a lot in the past few months about how my club operated and the kind of workplace that we had. It is now clear that the culture was not what it should be, but I did not realize the extent of the problems or my role in allowing the culture to develop and continue. I know that as the owner, I am ultimately responsible for the workplace. I have said that and I say it again. I feel great remorse for the people who had difficult, even traumatic experiences while working here. I'm truly sorry for that. I can't turn back the clock, but I promise that nobody who worked here will ever have that kind of experience again. At least not as long as Tanya and I are the owners of this team. Um, and there's another statement. This one's by Lisa Banks and Deborah Katz, who represent 40 former employees. And in their statement, they said the NFL chose to quote protect owner Dan Snyder and said that the fine amounted to pocket change. And this is their statement. It says, and I quote, this is truly outrageous and is a slap in the face to hundreds of women and former employees who came forward in good faith and at great personal risk to report a culture of abuse at all levels of the team, including by Snyder himself. The NFL has effectively told supervisors in this country and around the world that it does not care about them or credit their experiences. Female fans and fans of football everywhere take note. Um, and yeah, Mario. I also have another quote from Risa Friel. She said, and I quote, the culture at the club was very toxic and it felt far short of the NFL's values, and we hold ownership to high standard, which is why today's announcement is not only about accountability for the past, but also ensuring the improvements already underway as the club continues in the future. Um, and yeah, Mario. And I also have a statement from Roger Goodell himself, who helped out with the investigation. Of course, he's the commissioner. Said, and I quote, concluded that for many years that the workplace environment at the Washington football team, both generally and particularly for women, was highly unprofessional. Bullying and intimidation frequently took place, and many described the culture as one of fear. And numerous female employees were reported having experienced sexual harassment and a general lack of respect in the workplace. Ownership and senior management paid little or no attention to these issues. In some instances, senior executives engaged in inappropriate conduct themselves, including use of demanding language and public embarrassment. This set the tone for the organization and led to key executives believing that disrespectful behavior and more serious misconduct was acceptable in the workplace. And we actually talked about how Dan Snyder was felt like he was being extorted by a minority order. We talked about that back in December, so I'll link that in the description down below. Um, and we've talked about the football team quite a lot in certain topics. We talked about Dan Snyder. We talked about the team removing their cheerleading. This is their cheerleading squad for I forgot what it was, but I know we did touch up on it. But there's a lot going on with the football team in an attempt to try and rebrand this franchise. So they're doing a lot. They're doing a lot with this team, Mario. But this is kind of just hurting that process, you know. But let me continue because there's one more piece of information worth giving to you guys. Wilkinson made a series of 10 recommendations for the franchise going forward. So it's a list, so I'll list them off to you guys. The first recommendation is to develop a formal protocol for reporting allegations of harassment and misconduct, which is something you should already be doing regardless. Number two is develop a disciplinary action plan. Again, something you should already have. Number three, conduct anonymous workplace culture and sexual harassment surveys. 4, hire a third party to provide regular training for all employees on bullying, sexual harassment, and other workplace conduct issues. Again, those last two are something you should already have. Number 5, increase the number of women and minority employees throughout the organization. Number 6, implement a clear organizational structure with clear lines of authority. 7, expand and empower the organization's in-house human resources and legal departments. Number 8, create a formal onboarding process for new hires and a program for regular performances, reviews, and exit interviews for departing employees. Number 9, assign an HR employee to the cheerleading squad or coed dance team, which is actually the one we were talking about a couple of months back. That was what I was getting to. I'll link that in the description down below as well. And the last one is to retain an independent consultant to conduct an annual assessment of employment policies. And Dan Snyder had one more statement. He said, and I quote, "I agree with the commissioner's decisions in this matter and am committed to implementing his investigation's important recommendations." So yeah, that was a lot of information. So with that being said, I'll let you start off with this first, Mario, but the article was written by ESPN. So your thoughts on the whole situation going on here with the football team?
Well, first of all, Nate, the Washington football team, they've been in the news a lot, and it hasn't been mostly good. It's been mostly bad. Now they're going to find $10 million after the investigation into the workplace culture. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. Dan Snyder, he should have had eyes open on this. You know what I'm saying? And because he wasn't focused as much as he should have been, stuff happened in the workplace. Now, whether he was involved in it or not, I do not know. He's saying he's not. Let's suppose that is the case. Okay, regardless, he should have did more. Okay, and then like you look at, and I'm going to be honest with you, Nate. These recommendations that Wilkinson is providing, most of them I agree with. Again, conduct anonymous workplace culture and sexual harassment surveys. I like that. Again, nobody's name is mentioned or anything like that. Hire a third party to provide regular training. I like that too. Increase the number of women and minority employees throughout the organization. See, I got no problem with women in the workforce. I have no problem with that whatsoever. But here's what I will say, okay? I want you to get the best person for the job. It's as simple as that. The best person for the job should get the job. It's as simple as that. You know, it doesn't matter who they are. Okay. Implement a clear organizational structure with clear lines of authority. Creates clear rules that basically give you authority, that basically let you know the authority going down in this team. Expand and empower the organization's in-house human resources. I agree with that. Create a formal onboarding process for new hires and programs. Again, I agree with that as well. Assign an HR employee to the cheerleading squad or co-ed dance team. Agreed. Now, and last but not least, retain an independent consultant to conduct an annual assessment of employee policies. A lot of these I agree with, Nate. These are absolutely, I completely agree with a lot of these. Now again, going right here, a team reached a settlement with the former cheerleaders who appeared in lewd videos. We talked about that in the video when this whole issue was first introduced. But yeah, Nate, I will say this though, okay? He is making a lot of moves, Dan Snyder, to rebrand the culture of this team. He's making a lot of moves, you know, and he can only do so much as of now. You know, not everything can be done at once. So he's making them one by one. You know, he hired a new coach in Ron Rivera. They hired I believe, trying to find it. I believe it was a GM. I believe that they had Ron Rivera, and it was somebody else. They hired somebody else. I'm trying to look at it. It's in the article here somewhere. Jason Wright. They hired team president Jason Wright. That's who it was. And so they're making these moves, okay? But there are still moves to be made. Now, they're going to be fined $10 million again, as they should be punished for everything that went down. It wasn't a great place to work at. You know, you heard numerous people say it. Dan Snyder did not deny it. Again, it was not a great place to work at. And he said, as long as me and he said, as long as him and his wife are still in the ownership group, that should never happen again. And I hope you're right. Because if it does happen again, Dan Snyder, most likely you're going to be forced to leave this team. Okay, so again, like he said, he cannot turn back the clock, which is true. If he could, he probably wouldn't fix all the stuff that happened. But overall, Nate, he has to do better from here on out. It's as simple as that. You got fined $10 million, and who knows, it might be upgraded since then, you know. But overall, there hasn't been positive feedback on working for Washington. There hasn't been positive feedback. So overall, Nate, I do think that the recommendations that Wilkinson added, I believe that's something that they should take into effect and they should work on day to day in order to create the culture and rebrand the culture in Washington. And with that being said, I do hope that the culture does change around this team because as far as we know, former employees, they were not a big fan of it. A lot of them dealt with experiences that they're always going to remember, and not for good reasons neither. So with that being said, I hope that Washington can rebrand the team, and I hope that it could become a better team from here on out.
Right. Well, first of all, Mario, and you're absolutely right. The Washington football team has been in the news a lot. From their stadium plans, like I mentioned, to the new name of the team. We still don't know what that's going to look like, which is why Tanya came into the organization so she can figure that out. She wants to help out with that. So all of this stuff, and I look at these 10 recommendations, Mario, and I'm going to be honest, most, if not all of these, should have already been implemented.
They should.
They already should have been. I look at it. To develop a formal protocol for reporting allegations of harassment and misconduct. That's already something you should be doing. Organizations already have these things, and you're now just implementing them.
Right, but what's sad is some organizations don't.
Exactly.
That's the reason why a lot of this stuff is going on.
Develop a disciplinary action plan. Again, you should have already had that implemented. Conduct anonymous workforce culture and sexual harassment surveys. Already something you should have.
That's something you didn't need to do, but it's something that is a good idea because
exactly, yeah, because you just never know what goes on. Something like I mentioned yesterday. Sometimes behind the scenes, you just don't know what's going on because either they're being threatened, they're just the eyes and ears that are there just don't say nothing about it. Hire a third party to provide regular training for all employees on bullying, sexual harassment, other workplace conduct issues.
Something you should already have.
Something you should already have.
Let me tell you something. Okay, Let me tell you something. I work for Coastal, right? I work for Coastal. Do you know how much training we had to do before we could actually start?
Right.
And it was all video training and everything like that.
That's exactly what I'm still doing right now.
So the fact that Coastal has that and they don't,
I work at the Home Depot and they have these things already. And they're a huge corporation too. They're very, very big across the world. The Home Depot, they're the number one home retail brand in the world, and they already have stuff like this. You're a whole NFL franchise, which, by the way, the NFL is the biggest football league in the entire world, and you don't have this stuff. And there's other things. Increase the number of women and minority employees throughout the organization. See that? I looked at it, and I know some people probably aren't gonna like what I say, but I don't care if you're a man, woman, black, white, Asian. I don't care. If you are the best person for the job, I'm hiring. That's just how I work. That's just how I operate, And I know some people aren't going to be happy about that, but again, if you're not qualified for a job, then why am I going to hire you?
But right. I believe they should have an equal. I believe they should have an equal opportunity to be interviewed. I don't know about Again, I don't think it should be hire this person because they're this or hire this person because they're that. Absolutely. It should be because they are the best person for that job. It's as simple as that.
Right. I look at other things, the third party thing I already talked about that. Implement a clear organizational structure with clear lines of authority. Again, something you should already have. Expand the empower the organization's in-house human resources and legal departments. Something you should already have. All of these things I just read to you are all except for the fifth one, which that's a bit of a debatable one, but all the other ones that I read off, those are things you should already have had. So I don't know why they're being implemented now. You know what I mean? But hey, you know what they say. Better late than never. At least he's making an attempt to restructure the brand. From inside out. Because like you mentioned, some organizations still don't have these. So they could be like them and be like, screw it, let's just continue on and do, be blindsided by all the things that happen. So I'm glad that he's at least, Dan Snyder is at least making an effort to revitalize the workplace. I do appreciate that, but honestly, Mario, Dan Snyder, like you said, he's been talking about how this won't happen again. You're absolutely right. I hope he's right. I hope he is, because I'm going to be honest with you, Mario. You look at the football team's fan base, and I have quite a few of them too. I have quite a few friends who are fans of the football team, and they talked about it, man. They were like, I want him to sell the team. Fans just don't like. I've seen videos of the stadium with the people inside of it. They're filming, and they're actually chanting, sell the team. They don't like Dan Snyder.
Right.
So
And not only
because
that,
it not only has he been able to make a proper workplace, profitable, but he hasn't been able to put a good product on the field.
right. And not only that, but even people like going to this right here, Lisa Banks and Deborah Katz, the two women who represent the 44 former employees, they're saying it. Like they believe that he is being protected by the NFL. Now, I'm not
Right,
saying Snyder should lose his job or anything like that, but what I am saying is now is your chance. You have one chance to really change the culture
right,
around this team.
absolutely.
Because one more incident we hear, if we ever hear about something, I hope this never happens. But if we ever hear about something like breaking news, an employee in Washington football team or whatever the case, or whatever they're going to be named,
He's
has been sexually harassed or something,
he's
or
gonna end up having
assaulted
to
or
sell
whatever
the
the
team.
case might be, he's done.
He's gonna have to end up selling the team.
He's going to be
That's
forced to
just
sell the team. So he
that's just
needs
how
to
it's gonna
fix
work.
it now. So to Washington fans, I'll tell you this, okay? Wait a little bit. Wait. Let's see how he fixes. Let's see if he can fix this team, okay?
Because if he
Because if he
can't, then I
can't,
say we let him
then he
go.
needs to go. It's as
Yeah,
simple as that.
absolutely. So, but I'll give Dan Snyder this. At least he doesn't deny what happened. At least he's doing whatever he can to restructure this entire franchise. And again, like I mentioned, these recommendations already should have been implemented. But again, at least it's like I said, at least it's better late than never. At least he's actually doing what he can to restructure the brand and make it a better workplace than what it was before. So, with that being said, again, to the people that were affected by this, I do apologize to you guys. As for the football team, I do wish you guys the best of luck in restructuring your brand, and we'll just see what happens with them moving forward.